I have to open my mouth and speak and communicate with my wife.
Did you just put the ring on, or are you in the first few years of your marriage? Welcome to the First Year Marriage Show, a podcast dedicated to helping newlyweds navigate the first few years of marriage. My husband, Marcus, and I will be sharing marriage tips to help you build a strong foundation for your marriage. We believe having a strong foundation is essential to having a happy, healthy, and lasting marriage. We will also be learning from the experiences of awesome married couples who have been where you are today, taking from them lessons to help you build a strong foundation for the lasting marriage you desire. Take a deep breath, relax, learn, and enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of the First Year Marriage Show. We are very excited to be releasing episode 25. This is a huge milestone for us that we're excited to share with you. If you or someone you know would make great guests on this show, please don't hesitate to let us know at firstyearmarriage@gmail.com. We wanted to thank those of you who have already bought our new book, Communication in Marriage. If you haven't had a chance, you can go to firstyearmarriage.com/communicationbook. If you do buy it, please leave us a rating and review. We would greatly appreciate that. For all the show notes for this week's episode, can be found at firstyearmarriage.com/25. Have a wonderful week and enjoy this week's story.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the First Year Marriage Show. I am your host, Marcus Kusi, and our guest for today is Jesse Forster. Jesse lives in Kazakstan. He has 2 children, and he has been married for 4 years. He's also the host of the Father Nation podcast, which is a podcast dedicated to helping fathers like me become great parents. Jesse, thank you for coming on the show today.
Hey, thank you, Marcus. It's good to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do? I know you used to live in the U.S., but now you live in Kazakhstan. Can you give us a little insights about that too?
Yeah, well, I'm originally from Colorado, in the Colorado Springs area. I was born in Colorado and raised, and spent the first 27 years of my life in Colorado. And after high school, I started working with my father. He has a retail store. And after a few years, I got maybe a little bit bored, and I wanted some change in my life. And so I did some research, and I wanted to do some English teaching overseas. And I found an organization out in California. It no longer exists, actually, but back in 2008, I signed up with them, and they sent English teachers to about 40 different countries. And I ended up over here in Kazakhstan to teach English. So I'm still here, and my wife now is actually a Kazakh. It's a little bit about my how I ended up in Kazakhstan.
Oh, wow.
And we do plan on going back to the U.S. though later this year. We're working on the immigration process right now.
Yeah, it's not easy because my wife and I, we also went through the immigration process, and it's a little bit complicated. But I mean, with the way everything goes, sometimes you have some hindrances or roadblocks here and there, but at the end of the day, you're still able to get the end result that you want.
Yeah, it is a bureaucracy, but you just have to be patient.
Yeah. So how did you meet your wife?
You know, as I said, she's from Kazakhstan, but we actually met in Ukraine. I was going to this conference it was this InterVarsity Christian conference in Ukraine near Kyiv. It was a week-long conference back in the summer of 2009. And I met her there, and, you know, I didn't think too much about it. We talked a little bit, and then the day I left, I had to leave the conference actually a day early before everyone else was leaving. And so my flight was early that morning, and I was leaving the compound, and actually she came in and said goodbye to me. She was actually the only person that came and said goodbye to me. So I definitely remembered her. And then it just happened to be that I was coming to Kazakhstan that next fall. And so I found her on Facebook, and then I guess the rest is history.
So after you met her at this conference, like, how did you know, like, after getting to know her during the fall, how did you know that she was the one you actually wanted to spend the rest of your life with? Because I know it's not easy meeting someone from a different country and deciding, okay, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a single moment that where it hit me like, oh, this is the one. But I guess it happened slowly over time. We dated for maybe almost a year. I think it was a year. Yeah, it was actually over a year, like 13 months until we got engaged. And so at some point over that time, I realized that I wanted to get more serious and more committed, and we ended up getting engaged.
That sounds really interesting. So you guys met at a conference. You did it for more than a year, and then you guys started to get married. After you guys got married, I know with that first year, when you look back, there are a lot of things that probably happened. If you were to choose one or two words to describe that first year, what would they be?
Well, I was thinking about, adjustments or change, but I was thinking maybe everyone kind of says that, and it's pretty obvious. I was thinking of new roommate.
New roommate. That is what you describe the first year as?
Yes.
Okay.
New roommate.
Can you give us more details about that? Because I know if I say new roommate to somebody today, they'll be like, new roommate, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. When I was single, I moved around quite a bit, from apartment to apartment or from house to house. And I don't remember exactly how many roommates I had, probably 7, 10, I don't know. This is after college. And, each roommate was maybe like a year long. And each roommate is different, right?
Yeah.
If you live with somebody, and having just a marriage is kind of like having a new roommate. It's like, but it's closer, obviously, but you're in the same bedroom and things like that. But in a way, you're still living with somebody. You're in the house together. You have to work things out. Who does what? You have to respect each other and give a little bit of your freedom away with a roommate, because it's not just you.
So that is what you mean by roommates, as in you giving up some of your own personality traits or some of the things that you used to do to be able to adjust to living together with your wife under the same roof.
Yeah, I mean, if you're living by yourself, it's kind of like you are the king, or you're the only person, in the house, and you can do whatever you want. But with a roommate, you have to respect, there's some maybe differences of opinion, or there's some other wants besides your own wants.
Definitely. So whilst you guys were adjusting to married life and getting to know each other during that first year, what are some of the adjustments that you guys had to go through, like things that you personally had to change in order to be able to live together with your wife? Because I know living with a guy in the same house is different than living with a lady in the same house. So can you share one or two adjustments that you had to make, or you guys had to go through during that first year?
I guess one of the major adjustments was with my other roommates beforehand. They were just guys, and we talked occasionally, but it wasn't like as close as a marriage relationship. And so my biggest adjustment was actually the communication part, where I'm more introverted naturally, and I can easily just go on my computer for 5 hours, or I can just go reading for all day if I want to. I enjoy actually being alone, and I can entertain myself pretty much all day if I want to, and not be bothered. And so with my wife, I had to learn that I need to actually work on expressing myself and having longer conversations. And also, besides just learning how to communicate better, I had to learn how to do more things that maybe I didn't want to do. Like maybe I wanted to, go on the internet for a while, but maybe she wanted to go take a walk. I naturally, I don't like to walk that much, to be honest. I mean, I can, but I don't really enjoy going outside for a walk. I mean, if it depends on the place. In the city we live in, I don't really enjoy walking, but she likes it. She likes to get out just to take a 30-minute stroll. And so I had to learn, I need to, even if it's something I don't want to do, if it makes her happy, I need to sacrifice that and go on a walk.
Yeah.
Even if I'd rather, stay home and watch TV.
Yeah. It's a lot of changing going through that first year, because I personally, I used to work a lot when I was back home in Ghana. I know I worked a lot of miles even just going to high school. But when I came over here after some while, now I stopped working as much as I did when I was back home. Going for walks is something that I tend to not want to do now, but I think it's something that is really good if your spouse wants to do it and you don't hate doing it, or it's not something that is going to make you feel bad. Then it's best to just sacrifice that 30 minutes or 20 minutes to be able to enjoy that moment with your spouse, since it's going to make them happy.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't mean to sound like I don't like walking, because I do like walking. It depends on the scenery, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And there's actually a kind of a funny little story that we had where on our honeymoon we got to go to Italy, and we were in Venice. And in Venice is a beautiful city where there's lots of canals everywhere and just great scenery. So I really enjoyed walking around Venice. And we were walking around for a day or two. And then we actually had one of our first arguments here on our honeymoon in Venice, because we were walking, but I thought she was happy, but I guess I wasn't talking enough. And, she wanted more communication from me, where I was just, taking in the scenery, strolling around, just looking at things. And I didn't realize that she wanted more conversation as we were walking.
Wow.
So sometimes it's not just walking together and being together, but it's actually communicating with each other as well.
Yeah. Talking and holding hands. I know from someone who wants to explore the place and look at the vicinity or look at how beautiful things are over there, you more be apt to just be taking pictures or enjoying the beautiful scenery that you are around.
Right.
Yeah. So after you guys got married, you moved to Ukraine, and your parents, just like you said, are from the US. And I'm pretty sure your in-laws are also from Ukraine. What are some of the issues that you had in terms of having to deal with your in-laws? Because I know you are from the US, you have a different culture, a different way of doing things. And she's from Ukraine and they have a different way of doing things. How did you guys resolve all of those issues due to the difference in cultures?
And well, we met in Ukraine, but actually she's from Kazakhstan. So my in-laws are from Kazakhstan.
Oh, okay.
But my mother-in-law, she doesn't speak English. So that's probably the biggest challenge. I do speak some Kazakh, a little bit of Russian, but it's not great. And so my communication with my mother-in-law is limited because of language barriers. And I mostly, not mostly, I speak to her in Kazakh, but I can't express myself in Kazakh like I can in English, obviously. And so when I want to say something to her, oftentimes I can't. I can say things to her, but often I can't say what I want to say.
Yeah,
because of my language. I can't think of a word, or I can't say it correctly with the grammar. And there's sometimes miscommunication with that. Like I say something where I think I say something, but in actuality, I'm actually saying something else because of I'm saying something wrong.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's miscommunication that way, and my wife ends up having to translate between the two of us. So that's maybe the most difficult thing, probably.
Oh, okay. So after you've had these miscommunication issues, how did your parents feel communicating with your wife? Was it an easy thing? Did she know how to speak English fluently to be able to talk with your parents?
Yeah, my wife and my parents have it easier because my wife speaks very good English, and so they can communicate much easier as far as language. Maybe I don't know how much. It doesn't feel like there's too much miscommunication because of culture. Maybe because my wife is now so close to me that she's maybe becoming more American. I don't know.
I definitely can relate with what you're saying, because my mom also doesn't speak English fluently. And sometimes when I talk to her on the phone and actually wants to say something, I have to relay that message to her and explain it to her. So I definitely can relate to what you're saying in terms of the language barrier that you have with your in-laws.
Yeah, so, it's sometimes a challenge, but we work through it.
Yeah. So during that first year, was there any conflict that you guys had at all?
Yes. Well, after our marriage, we got married in late May, and throughout the whole summer, actually, we had opportunity just to kind of take a long honeymoon. So we were traveling a lot. We went to, as I said, we went to Venice, and then we went traveling around some in the U.S., and we had a pretty good summer because there was no work to worry about. We were just having a nice honeymoon. And then the fall came, and I got a job back in Kazakhstan at an international school. And there was a policy there that all the workers at the school got an apartment in addition to their salary, or housing, you can call it. But they did not give me my housing because I had a local wife. That was the policy where if you have a local wife, you don't get the housing benefit. And so, which is fine, everyone can have their own policies. And so I made the decision to try and fight that, to try and get the housing. And so I had the idea of starting a union at the school.
Wow.
Where it was a very aggressive move. And my wife was kind of she was saying basically, okay, well, do what you think is right. But, she was very cautious and kind of warning me to back off a little bit. But I didn't listen to her advice. And so it eventually ended up costing me my job there. That was probably the biggest conflict that we had that first year, was job related. It's my own fault. I mean, I just was probably wasn't the wisest thing to do at the time, but live and learn.
Yeah, you definitely live and learn. So was your wife against you starting the union over there at all?
She wasn't completely against. She agreed with what I was saying, the purpose of it, but she kind of disagreed with maybe doing it in the first place because it was too risky.
And how did you guys go about coming up with an amicable solution?
Well, basically, I lost my job because of it, and then we had to suffer through a period of time where I had to find other work, and it wasn't as well paid. And so then, there's the challenge of just, forgiveness and just trying to maybe some anger there of, why did you do that? But at the same time, she's always been supportive of me and saying, well, you tried it, you did what you wanted to do in your heart, and so now we have to deal with the consequences. So she's, I don't want to make it sound like she isn't supportive, because she was, but she just disagreed with it, but I pushed ahead anyways.
Wow, you're trying to be stubborn.
Yeah, so I guess the lesson would be, before you do something, you should try and be on the same page. I mean, it's rather than push through maybe, or really talk it through more. I probably acted too fast, where I didn't take her advice, take it seriously enough.
Yeah,
where I should have waited more. Yeah.
I know it's not easy, especially when you know what you're doing is right and you're trying to fight for something that you deserve or something that you believe you should have access to. But sometimes I know whatever your spouse will say is something that you shouldn't just, put it on the back burner. It's something you should take seriously, because they are your life partner and they know what is best, and they'll be able to help you make a better decision going forward in life.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back also to the communication part, which is, and if I would say if there's one thing that I've struggled with most in marriage, it's probably communication, and that includes speaking to her my thoughts and feelings, because naturally I just keep my thoughts to myself. So I have to really try to communicate, and also listening. And I guess if you ask my wife what my biggest problem is, it's probably listening.
That's something I used to struggle with in that first year also. But with time, I learned how to listen well. And, my wife and I, we come up with a strategy, like 7 other things that we do to help us communicate better. And the listening aspect was something that we did that really helped us very, very well. And what anybody who's listening to us today can learn from us is being able to listen very, very well to your spouse is something that you shouldn't take lightly at all.
Yeah. And for me, even if I am listening, it also needs to appear like I'm listening, because, for example, she could be saying something and I can be on my iPad and I'm listening to her, but then she gets mad because it looks like I'm just on my iPad. And she doesn't want me just to listen, but she wants me to actually make eye contact and be fully present.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It makes a big difference. I can understand where your wife is coming from, especially when you have that eye contact and okay, my wife or my husband is talking to me, so I need to focus my attention and listen instead of just, hear whatever they are saying to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So as you've been going through these communication struggles and some other struggles that you've had in your marriage, are there any resources that you've used at all?
A couple come to mind. I haven't really read a single book or haven't been to a seminar or anything like that that's really helped. But friends is one thought that comes to my mind. Just having friends that are also married. There's a couple that we used to meet with sometimes that we would go to their place and just talk about different things, related to marriage and stuff like that. Another resource for us is the Bible. We're Christians, and our faith, I think, has really helped us in our marriage, because just thinking about the concepts of patience, love, commitment, a lot of that comes, for me at least, from my faith.
That's really honest of you to be able to share your faith with your wife and be able to understand that, without your faith, you won't be where you are today, and your faith is what is really kept you guys going and keep you guys together when anything difficult arises. I know in the first year, there are a lot of things that happen, a lot of things that go wrong. And with some couples, it's a really exciting year. With some couples, it's a really difficult year. And from what you are telling us today with your story, it looks like you guys had something that was, you had something in between, in the middle, somewhere around there. If there was one thing or one event or one moment that you guys shared together in that phase, that today when you sit down to talk about brings a smile to your faces, what would that then be?
Well, we became pregnant our first year. After about 5 months of marriage, she became pregnant. And just the joy of learning that she was pregnant was something we'll always remember. Because we weren't 100% sure if she would be able to become pregnant because of some medical issues that I had. That'd probably be top of the list. Another thing that I was thinking about was when we were coming back to Kazakhstan from the U.S., I made the decision to try and find the cheapest possible route from the U.S. to Kazakhstan. And so it included our itinerary. So we had to fly from Denver to London, and then London to Rome, and then Rome to Amsterdam.
Wow.
And then Amsterdam to Kazakhstan. And then from there, we had to take a 10-hour train ride because it wasn't actually in the city in Kazakhstan where we needed to be. And so altogether, it was like a 45-hour trip or something. And it was cheap, but it was very long.
Yeah, I can see that.
We were just exhausted. And when you're going through something that's kind of exhausting or difficult, it's always terrible when it's happening. But then after a year, you can always look back on it and laugh. So sometimes we look back on that return trip from the U.S. to Kazakhstan and laugh about how we went on this long journey that was probably a lot longer than necessary to save $100. But
just to save $100.
I don't remember what it was, but it was something,
Yeah, I can see that. Trying to save money here and there, it's really a big deal. Like when we don't know when your next money is going to come, source of income is going to come from. When everything is tight and you're living month to month. I mean, it's something that it's realistic that you can do to just save money here and there to be able to put food on the table or pay the bills. And looking at the route that you guys took, I just look at it and I'm like, wow, that must be really exhausting, because from Denver to London alone is not an easy flight.
Yeah, so you're exhausted already by London, but then we had to go to Rome. That's another 2-hour flight. And also there's layovers between each of these flights. And then we had to go back from Rome to Amsterdam. So flying around Europe.
Wow. At least you guys had fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. So Jesse, I know we've talked a little bit about your first year. We've highlighted most of the important things that happened during that first year for you guys. If there was something that I didn't ask you about your first year that you think will help our listeners who are listening to us today, can you let us know about it?
Well, I touched on this a little bit earlier, and it relates to communication, where with my wife, she is more of a budgeter. She saves money, and I'm more of a spender. and one thing that happens often is where I spend something without telling her. That happened a few times where I needed to actually say to her, listen, I'm going to buy this. Is this okay? Rather than taking the freedom just to do what I wanted to.
Yeah.
And because she's very good at budgeting, and she likes to keep track of everything, where I'm more of a big picture guy, where I don't worry about the quote unquote small things, but I know they do add up. So
yeah,
I would say that with money, that's one of the big things that first year married couples have to deal with is how are you going to deal with it and how are you going to communicate with that. We eventually came to an arrangement where we had the freedom to spend on anything we wanted to a certain dollar amount, but then we would talk about it if it was over that dollar amount.
That is really smart from you guys, because it's something that, you're not restricting each other as to how much you can spend or what you should spend the money on, but you're just setting the limits. Okay, if it's more than this dollars, then we need to sit down and talk about it and see whether it's whether to put our money into that or to not spend our money that way.
Yeah, because it's kind of difficult to say, oh, can I buy this $2 thing if your limit is $30 or $50, whatever it is. If you're doing every little thing, it gets to be maybe a little bit annoying to always ask for everything. Yeah. Maybe some people would like that, but for us, it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't good.
Yeah. So Jesse, what is one lesson or advice that you wish you had known either before you got married or after you got married or during the first year that you were married?
This maybe it's just me, but I think a lot of men struggle with this, and I think it's that communication is probably one of the biggest things that will help your marriage. If you have good communication, I think you can have a very good marriage because it all starts with communication. And that's to mean that for men, at least for me, I don't always feel that it's necessary to share something unless if it's important. I say, that's not important, whatever. But I've been learning that even the small things my wife wants to hear, even if I think it's unnecessary. So my advice, I guess, would be to share. And that's something I'm working on myself, even after 4 years, is that I have to open my mouth and speak and communicate with my wife.
That's
and also on the other end, to actually listen and be present when she's speaking and actually take in the words she's saying and truly listen.
Thank you very much, Jesse, for sharing your first year story with us. If our listeners out there who want to get in touch with you, what do you think will be the best way? And if there are any exciting projects you want us to know about, can you share those with us too?
Yeah, thanks, Marcus, for having me. You can get in touch with me at fathernation.com. There I have my podcast where we talk about fatherhood and just ways to be better dads. So again, fathernation.com.
Thank you very much again, Jesse, for coming on the show to share your story. I really appreciate you waking up this early in the morning in Kazakhstan to talk with us.
Hey, thanks, Marcus, for having us.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the First Year Marriage Show. To submit a question, feedback, or suggestions for the podcast, visit firstyearmarriage.com/feedback. Apply what you've learned today and build a strong foundation for the happy, healthy, and lasting marriage you desire. Enjoy your marriage. Enjoy your life.